BLG give us a stellar showing in Game 1 against Rogue Warriors. And while we might not have been able to catch the first 12 minutes of it, I'm fairly certain the end of the game more than spoke for how it began, because BLG were non-stop putting pressure across the map, rotating so very quickly between objective to objective. It looked like Rogue Warriors didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, smoked, I think, is the correct word choice right there. Rogue Warriors were smoked very,
barbecue
very hard.
coming to a town near you.
And I think that BLG demonstrated a couple core principles in League of Legends. Number one, be willing to trade whenever the trade is actually beneficial to your side. I think a lot of teams actually get caught up in defense mode and trying to scramble across the map, and they actually slow their own pace down. When the trade is favorable for you, just take it. They didn't go for like the greedy play on the triple Infernal. They said, you know, we have Baron here. We're just going to do that Baron straight ahead. We're not going to take the Infernal and then go back to Baron. Even though they had the opportunity to do so, they were always on the money in pushing the game tempo as fast as they possibly could.
I think you mentioned it yourself. League of Legends is an easy game when you know what the opponent's going to do all the time. And I'm not sure if it's because they had vision or because they were communicating effectively or if they just could read Rogue Warriors like a book. But there is one play that stands out the most. It's when Rogue Warriors wanted to try and fight back, and it did not work at all.
Everything was planned by BLG. They had the Cassiopeia turning on with the Petrifying Gaze, and they also had Meteor come into the fight as soon as Lucian was starting to open up. That was their plan all along. If you take Zamuji out of the equation...
Trying to get tall there, yeah?
Yeah, I was trying to watch over the television. If you take Zamuji out of the equation, there's no way you lose that type of fight, and the Paranoia was timed so well. Yeah. They actually waited on the Paranoia for the Realm Warp to actually land. It's like, hey, let's draw you in. Let's make you think you have a chance. Make you see your targets. You go in, they turn the lights off.
Exactly. And speaking of that Paranoia, Meteor will be our MVP for that BLG Game 1 victory. Stellar performance. Getting the solo kill that we saw onto Shuju in his own jungle at Krugs. Usually when you're that deep into your jungle, you're safe. But that was not when Meteor's on the map.
Insanely well timed. Shuju, if you look at his ultimate cooldown, the Ragnarok, he was seconds away from having that up and able to turn around the fight. That's not a fight that Nocturne should be able to win most of the times. It's actually very dangerous. Of course, he had a sizable lead, but still very good timing, very good play. Every time he used the Paranoia, they got a massive advantage. Yeah. And just a little bit of a trivia. You know, this guy was actually ranked as the 8th best ping pong player in China.
Really?
Yes, he's a national athlete.
Well, he was playing ping pong with Rogue Warriors that past game, just tossing them all across the map. But hey, this time we get a chance to start from the beginning with this Game 2 coming up. And we didn't really get a chance to talk about the preparation, what we sort of expect out of the course of the series. We got a class in what to expect from BLG. Kuro effectively split pushing and controlling and dictating the map, while Mini roams all over the place, super, super quick. Is it, now that Rogue Warriors have seen it, is there anything Rogue Warriors can do?
Oof. The thing about BLG is the only way that we've seen them fall to other teams is if they're impeded in laning phase. If Kuro has a bad lane, he's pushed in, he's just unable to start roaming around the map. If ADD suddenly gets solo killed, that can happen, and that's how you slow BLG down. But Rogue Warriors actually already had the best picks to do so in Game 1, and that didn't put a dent into BLG's game plan. So it's actually very hard for me to see how Rogue Warriors are going to combat this. I'm going to need a second to brainstorm. I'm going to need a second to brainstorm.
I'll let you think about it, because we've still got a few minutes before we get into this pick and ban for Game 2. And if you need this much time, you, the professional analyst, to come up with a solution for Rogue Warriors, we have to hope that the coaches and the team of analysts behind Rogue Warriors can turn things around. Steak has got plenty of experience on stage and behind his team. He, of course, trusted and joined me at MSI, at Rift Rivals, and they were, sorry, not MSI, at Rift Rivals this past year in 2018, and they put on a stellar performance to eventually turn around the whole event and win it for the LPL. So perhaps Steak has got the grounds to try and reset this squad of newcomers. We'll just have to see what it's going to be.
The difficulty of something like this, it's not about always getting the best selection of champions that you can work with. A lot of times, even if you do, you still can't beat the enemy team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the main problem here. So it's not just factoring the ban picks, but also factoring the level of performance that these players can really put on at this point. So I think the best way for Rogue Warriors is to try to shock BLG with a draft. Try to open up a ton of possible options, a ton of power picks across the board, and kind of confuse BLG.
Yeah, I mean, that was what worked for Rogue Warriors in the past, though a significant portion of that was off of Doinby in the mid lane and SMLZ as the AD carry. Of course, with the new squad, they've got a lot on your screen. You just saw BLG's upcoming matches. The reason this game matters for BLG, why they are taking it so seriously, is because they are playing up against some big teams in the next few weeks. And if they want to lock in that playoff spot, no shadow of a doubt, they have to get as many wins as possible, and this is one of the easiest ones remaining to them.
Suning, RNG, EDG, no teams to scoff at. If you have those 3 teams in a row, then you better start winning the easy ones, picking up the ones like Rogue Warriors, picking up the ones like Vici before you go down the stretch. BLG had a very, very easy start to the schedule.
Oof, and already we've got ourselves that Lissandra locked in for Kuro. You can already see a smile from the coach of BLG as he's feeling pretty happy about Kuro on that champion once again, but Killua on the Thresh. All right.
Rogue Warriors need chaos. They need a bruiser-centric comp that just skirmishes all the time. They need to play so breakneck fast that BLG can't even respond to what they're doing. They can't have a moment to themselves to think about where they're going on the map.
It almost seems like BLG might be playing with nameplates off. The Kled, Aatrox, Syndra ban, to me screams Doinby, but there's no Doinby on Rogue Warriors right now.
Those are bans targeted at Zaru.
Of
now,
course,
Zaru
yeah.
is actually a pretty serious solo lane threat. He's had great performances on the Kled. He's been winning the lanes against even a lot of the top talent. And what I like about Rogue Warriors is that they never swap their players out once they've started. They basically have 2 units at this point, but they want maximum experience on them, so they're willing to put them in for the entirety of the series. They don't take them out. They want to let them grow.
Again, so many of our teams here in the LPL are invested in that long-term, young series of players to grow the organization over time. We just saw the exact same thing from Vici in our set before this one. Rogue Warriors are also taking a step in that direction, but BLG, even with their new players, are showing that they've got the right mix, the swirl mix of old and new to really bring the spice against Rogue Warriors, and are set to close out the series with a 2-0. Now we'll see what the next set of picks are going to be. We're looking for Meteor and ADD to get themselves some counter picks. As Rogue Warriors, who do they save their counter pick for? Do they save it for Zhao Yun in the top lane?
I think it has to be Zaru. ADD is the one player on the team where I feel like his solo lane strength is somewhat abusable, and he does have bad moments. I've seen a very bad game from him on the Aatrox, in fact. So BLG is reading this as well. They're counteracting by banning away both of Zaru's champions at this point. For Rogue Warriors, I want to see a little bit more synergy between the support and the jungle. I think that's one part of Shuzu's game where he's seriously lacking at times. And if they want to play a stir-the-pot strategy and just out-tempo BLG, play a breakneck at a breakneck pace, they have to start doing that more.
Well, it looks like Sion locked in very early for Rogue Warriors. Unless that's going to Huatian in the mid lane, it looks like they're saving that counter pick last. So we do get to see ADD look for his own counter pick as Kindred is locked in for Meteor. With a laugh and a smile, Poppy is the pickup for ADD to deal with that Sion.
Kindred, the standard counter to Olaf using the LPL. If you can hop away from the first undertow, which is quite easy to do, then you have a great trade with him. And also you do a lot more late game come carry time and items, so we see that quite often. And ADD with his classical top lane blind pick, he's pretty much the only one to start it in the top lane. And it's been working out very well for him. Not a lot of good counters into the Poppy, always a solid champion. And it's one that if you can force someone into a side lane or in the jungle, it's actually very easy to make picks with.
You know what I think, Clement? I think that he picked the Kindred just so he could mark his kills before he actually got them. If his play on that Nocturne was any indicator, this is him sending a warning flag, putting the weights on so that Rogue Warriors know, oh, I've been marked. I'm about to be killed by Meteor. I think it's the confidence play from BLG coming into this, but Rogue Warriors, they're dealing with that with a nice tanky composition. The Urgot Scion, with Urgot going to the mid lane for Huatian. Or sorry, Scion going to the mid lane, got that mixed up.
It's a mid-game teamfight composition that is very strong across the lanes and has a lot of potential for invade type of plays. Scion pushes very well early, Urgot pushes very well early. It's about if Rogue Warriors can actually link their separate pieces together. We have seen them actually win laning phases, but a lot of times the communication between their jungler especially and the rest of their lanes has been very suspect. They don't actually punish teams as hard as their laning phase should suggest.
And that has to be a question that we raise because as we all know, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And if Rogue Warriors are playing this sort of link composition by getting towards that mid game, if they struggle in the laning phase, which they have done before, that could make that mid game pretty favorable for BLG, especially with the snowball of the Kindred, of the Kaisa on the other side. So we'll see how things are going to work out for them if Rogue Warriors can stabilize long enough to make it towards an equal mid-game footing, or if BLG are once again going to try to break this game open with that lightning-fast pressure that they used in Game 1.
The victory condition for BLG typically in these fights have been that first dragon fight. That first Drake fight is where they crack it open.
Alrighty, we've got to institute some rules for the chanting. It's getting out of hand now. Starting to get to the point where it's a bit wacky. Rogue Warriors, ooh, they are spotted out by Kuro, and they're moving on top of a ward. As Rogue Warriors try to get some early vision, but who they give the gold to? Yeah, ADD in the top lane.
We've seen this a lot from teams that run the Olaf, because Olaf does go quite low earlier on. You do want to spot out where the enemy jungler actually starts, their pathing, just to keep the Olaf safe. We've seen a lot of times the Kindred will actually try and go for a level 2 snipe onto the Olaf.
They're on opposite sides of the map right now, both going for a blue buff, as a ward was placed on Scuttle to track where Meteor ends up going. Let's see where that coin flip first mark is going to be as ADD. Ooh, you hate to see that happen. Walks right into the Urgot and takes a lot of early damage. Oh boy. Eventually Poppy gets tanky, but yeah, that is tough.
Rogue Warriors is actually being given the better composition by our Colonel right here. I need to check out how accurate our Colonel actually is with these. I always feel like I have different opinions than him.
He knows all the secret herbs and spices to a tasty composition, Clement.
That's true. Can't argue with that. Whoa.
Flash, play, and the hook, and the ignite. Mini burning down the auto attack. Killua gives it the old thumbs up as he finds himself with first blood in the bottom lane.
That was insane calculation. Mini already got his flash off, but still died to that entire chain. I did not expect the amount of damage to be coming down.
He did some quick maths from Rogue Warriors bottom lane, and they find themselves with the kill. As looks like we've got some vertical jungling going on between Meteor and Shuju.
That has to be a top 5 play of the day. That's absolutely insane how much damage they did.
Killua goes real quick. Now Meteor is behind Zhao Yun right now. ADD walks it forward. Oh, the flash stalls it out. There's a secondary late flash from Zhao Yun, burning down to 200 health, but gets the shield up. And with ADD tanking, they cannot chase any further. Zhao Yun survives.
Flash for flash trade, but the lane advantage does go over to ADD. Much better lane position.
Killua, did they not see Killua? They didn't see Killua. Uh-oh, they're behind you.
Oh,
what a hook!
What?
Killua!
Are you kidding me?
Lands it. Wuji looking for
Can he
one.
find it? Oh,
Gets the auto attack and the heal in order to escape. Mini cannot find the Devour. Rogue Warriors start off with a kill apiece in their bottom lane.
Zhang Wuji is the win condition. Just get him fed and you have a chance. I did not expect this level of proficiency from the bot lane of Rogue Warriors at this point. This is a picture-perfect play. Hooks through the minion wave.
And catches Jin Zhao. Oh man, the shotgun strikes, but sometimes the shotgun strikes back. Jin
Oh, that's
Zhao and
LWX,
Mini
by the way.
having some trouble. Sorry?
Oh, that's LWX, by the way.
Oh, yeah, you're true. Well, Jin Zhao is reminiscent of LWX on and off. Perhaps, maybe watching a few too many VODs is, oh man, let's watch that hook once again in between the two minions.
Use the Devourer. That's the crucial point here. Mini tries to push the minion wave out, but he's actually in plain view of Rogue Warrior players.
And the heal just to keep themselves topped up. It is a slight CS advantage for Jin Zhao, though. The wave will eventually crash in, and Song Wooji should be able to get most of this CS back up to equalize all in all, but 1-0 and 1 early Vamp Scepter plus the Doran's Ring for sustain in lane. There is nothing this bottom lane has to worry about for the next few minutes.
It's a very interesting way to build Kai'Sa. We typically see her just rush for her items because she has a very slow curve compared to someone like the Ezreal. But this time around, just going for the straight Vamp Scepter, I wonder if she's just going to leave it at the Vamp Scepter and just try to stock for items afterwards, give herself a very good laning phase, or is it actually going to build into anything? Really haven't seen this build.
Seems like he might just be playing a safe style because, again, he's got the health from the Vamp Scepter and the mana from the Doran's Ring, so plenty of time to sit back in lane and soak it up, knowing that he is up against an Ezreal who still doesn't have a tier and will be stacking up that mana over time. So perhaps relying on the fact that not going to expect too much action for the next 7 to 10 minutes to set himself up safely. Should anything happen, he'll be at full health and mana no matter what.
If that's the case, why don't you just rush her 2 items? I mean, Ezreal's not going to punch you.
Yeah,
that's kind of an interesting build. I definitely want to see where he wants to go with it.
Yeah.
We have seen people do this. I think Double actually was doing this, or was it one of the M5 teams? But people have done this in the past where you just hold on to a Vamp Scepter just to make your laning phase easier.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go beyond that. But very rare for the Kai'Sa to actually do this, especially with fleet footwork.
Yeah, especially with the fleet footwork. You're right. Meteor's ready to hop over the wall, but he
Hello.
face checks right into Killua. Oh boy, this is... Oof. That's not how BLG wanted this game to go, I think.
I need to know what steak fed Killua before the game. He looks like a different player.
Yeah, this is a completely different guy. I think this is actually very similar to the style that we saw Rogue Warriors take against Edward Gaming a few days ago. As, jeez, look at the damage. Non-stop pressure down in the bottom lane. Rogue Warriors are swinging back hard.
And all of those plays were so clean. Killua getting the double flay, going onto the target as well. It's just... Maybe we haven't seen this side of Killua, but we've never really known Thresh as one of his best champions. His best champions has always been the Tahm Kench or the Braum, a much more defensive.
Splits the 2 with that hook. Rogue Warriors, once again, might have to rely on their most veteran member of Killua in this, his second year of LPL play, to lead the charge. His pike against Edward Gaming was what nearly brought them back in the series to a Game 3 with some spectacular hooks. So perhaps he's just been spending the time in the practice tool to hit up against those difficult to hit targets, to maneuver between the minion waves and position himself correctly, because something is clicking for him on these hook champions.
And he's actually linking up with Shuzu. This is something that we didn't see a lot of, and I'm really happy they're starting to do. They should get a clamp onto that red buff. Sion should have the lane priority. He's got an extra back over Lissandra. They're already in place to make that play happen.
They might be looking to make another play happen as they're set to stack up and dive the bottom tier 1 turret 8 minutes in, though we are seeing red buffs get traded as once again vertical jungling is used by the members of Rogue Warriors. Could be looking for Kuro on this Lissandra, but for now he's just catching the waves against Hua Tian.
Yeah, Kuro playing very safe at the meantime. Knows that the bot side has been traded away, but can he actually prevent this from happening though?
Oh, that hook and flame missed, but still, look at the damage being dealt to Mini down here. Even Hua Tian is getting in on the action. Kuro gets pulled away from the lane just in case, but Hua Tian and Shuju just continuing to rotate back and forth between this bottom lane and keep Jin Zhao down. This is definitely going to stall out BLG for quite some time. Still no tier, and there's no chance for Jin Zhao to recall because of the constant push.
He's also running very low on mana, so BLG have to pull their jungler to this position, but it's going to be a 4v3 anyway. They have to back out.
Meteor is here. That's the hook. Immediate cleanse from Mini to get out of it. Killua gets slowed, eating just a bit of damage from Mini. Knockup prepared over the wall, but Jin Zhao doesn't walk into it. Meanwhile, some damage onto Zhao Yun as ADD is starting to trade back, but Zhao Yun with the Ignite drops it down to look for a little bit more. ADD is getting close to that execute range, but still just continues to heal himself up.
You really don't want to contest that with the Poppy early level 6. The R ultimate still does a lot of damage, and you can follow that with a Q as you fall down. So it's a surprising amount of burst. I like how Zalrin backed out when he pretty much absolutely needed to. I also really like Killua's positioning underneath the tower. If you saw the position which he hooked the Mini, that was pretty much pixel perfect. Right in the right outside the range of the tower.
That was clever.
Where he would not get hit. That's actually very hard to do.
Killua managing to find that sweet spot. He is online in this game. What can he do with it, though, as that's the slow. Oop. Claws of Ice for Kuro in order to escape any potential gank, because he just continues to catch this minion wave. Rogue Warriors, they're up 2,000 gold off of what feels like Killua almost single-handedly just manipulating and controlling that bottom lane. And helping to find that assist onto Meteor. He's even gotten himself the very early Mobies to try and affect the map, but elsewhere from the Ezreal Tahm Kench, it's really hard to find some of these kills. It's up against Lissandra, level 6 Kindred.
Huatian should still be very safe in this situation. Olaf is already coming behind. I want to draw your attention to Zhang Wuji. He's actually rushing for the Blade of the Ruin King. A very rare item choice for Kai'Sa early on, but you can see the mentality behind it. He was able to take Gromp alone and have a Killua leave the lane to roam. So I actually really like this strategy. It's making maximum use of the resources on the bot side.
Going to slightly delay the plasma damage procs that you normally see out of a Guinsoo's, but still should be more than enough as Kuro ults himself through the crowd control in order to clear the wave. True Shot Barrage used. It looks like, yeah, even misses the top minion wave. BLG, that communication seems to be a little bit lacking when playing from behind.
If you can disrupt BLG from the laning phase, they typically are off to a pretty slow start. And Rogue Warriors have finally got that one lane rolling completely to their side. However, I will say the challenge against BLG is typically not just winning the laning phase, but also securing your first Drake, getting over your first Drake fight. BLG, they are the master of coordinations. When it comes to the 5v5, they're just so clean. So I want to see if BLG ever get a chance to actually contest one of these objectives. And that's going to be the first real test for Rogue Warriors. Can they keep it clean enough to the point of taking a team fight over BLG? It
looks like BLG are a little bit behind on those item breakpoints. And with Rift Herald up, Rogue Warriors are already set to try and push the pace. You can see Jin Zhao and Mini making their way towards this Rift Herald as they race across the map, but Meteor is already heading bottom as BLG decide this isn't a battle that they can take right now. With some of the chip damage that's already gone down onto the bottom tier 1, you've got to wonder where Shuju is going to put down that Herald, as instead BLG decide to trade it for this Cloud Dragon, even investing a teleport in there. Could this be the fight that we were looking for? Huatian races in. Flash from Mini to get over the wall, along with the Arcane Shift from Jin Zhao to keep himself safe.
Rogue Warriors with a great play again. They get 2 summoners for 1 in that situation with only Huatian actually using his ultimate. Actually, it was a 2 for 0 trade on Rogue Warriors' part.
Still, though, we're looking for when BLG decide to take that mid-game fight that you were talking about. Ludens has now been finished off for Kuro. Jin Zhao has just picked up his Iceborne Gauntlet. We're waiting to see if ADD can finish off a tank item before looking for that next engage. Trouble is, they've got all these items, nowhere to go with them. The Rift Herald has been taken. Dragon cleared off the map as recalls are canceled by Jin Zhao.
That was pretty insane. To hit both of them in the middle of lane, outside of vision. It's actually going to give them quite a sizable tempo lead.
And for that means they get the chance to push in a bit into this bottom tier 1. Still looking for where Shuju drops his Rift Herald. About 2.5 minutes left on the timer for that. So still plenty of opportunity to roam around the map and look for the opportune place
Yeah, he will have to drop it before the Infernal Drake comes up. Small thing to note. Can Killua find another hook?
Stepping forward behind the minion wave, Jinzhao is safe. Shuju even roaming down here if the hook lands as, ooh, Meteor looking for a gank up top, needs one more auto attack, but doesn't find it as Zhao Yun ghost flashes to safety. Seeing Meteor up top though, immediately Rogue Warriors drop that Rift Herald bottom and are now set to get that first brick as it's passed over to Killua and Zhongwu Ji. Meanwhile, ADD trying to answer in kind with a turret of his own, but Poppy not quite as proficient as 3 members of Rogue Warriors and the Rift Herald.
It's almost not that efficient for Rogue Warriors because they were expected to take that bot lane tower even without the Herald. I kind of wonder how much they're trading in terms of the tower damage on the top side. Doesn't look like much, so still it would be fine. And they do avoid the power spike coming in from Ezreal. At least they're not going to allow him to just wave clear with the Iceborne Gauntlet.
We do have to remember Rogue Warriors are still a young team. 4 new players and Killua as their veteran. So maybe instead of looking for the most optimal 3 steps ahead chess move, they're just trying to checkers this next one piece. They wanted to make sure there was no chance they missed easy gold they could have taken because they were looking for more. So I don't necessarily fault them for using the Rift Herald, because now look at how that's resulted in wards on the bottom side of the map. That next Infernal Dragon is very important for that composition, especially with the Kaisa and the Urgot. So if they manage to maintain that vision for the next 2 minutes, that could be an easy conversion into that Infernal.
Definitely would be the case. However, I would still have favor just drawing BLG's bot lane toward that tower and try to punish them repeatedly over that. I favor actually just dropping the Herald on any other lane would be fine.
Sure.
Make sure you have that point on the map where you can continuously pressure. You should be able to win.
You want to have your
anyway.
cake and eat it too.
Oh yeah, I'm a greedy person.
Of course, of course. Steak is busy in the back saying, drop the Herald.
Yeah, just do
Take
it now.
the turret
just do it now.
and leave.
That's understandable.
Especially after Game 1. I mean, you have to wonder how Rogue Warriors are feeling, considering Game 1 was so dominant, and now Rogue Warriors are in the driver's seat in Game 2. This has got to be a bit of an unexpected position for this team. Perhaps they're still not quite comfortable setting the pace, considering where Rogue Warriors are in the standings.
It does allow Mini to start roaming around the map, though.
Yes.
And I think that's a bit of a problem and a downside for Rogue Warriors. Rogue Warriors actually don't have the best engages when it comes to these 5v5 situations. If they can't force you to be somewhere, they basically can't force you to fight them, to commit fully to any type of team fight. So BLG should have a lot of maneuvering space in terms of the bot lane. They should be able to disengage whenever they want to, and just kind of slow the game down by picking the right moments.
It seems like that's what we're seeing from BLG, just constantly controlling the waves. They swapped Kuro down into the unsafe lane, that Lissandra, who's able to ult herself, use the Ice Claw to escape to safety, and then even the Flash just in case of that, while Jinzhao catches minion waves mid. ADD has finished off the top tier 1 with some additional pressure from Meteor, so it does equalize in turrets, and ultimately, despite the 3 kills and the Rift Herald, it's still only about a 12 to 1300 gold advantage for Rogue Warriors. So you're right on the money, Clement. BLG, they are content to slow things down. As I say that, though,
good dodge on the Q.
Yeah, we could be seeing ADD look for some action onto Zhao Yun. Trying to look for just a little bit more. Here comes the execute, the knockback. This is ADD. Oh, that minion might be enough to take his health down, but no, the debuff fades away, and ADD walks away with his life. Meanwhile, Hua Tian did use the ultimate bottom, it looked like. I'm trying to see if any summoners were used, but it doesn't appear to be the case.
That was insanely close. You could execute once a target goes below 25% health, and I saw it tick down to around 400 HP for ADD. So he was 1 or 2 hits away from being taken down by Zarun.
Just a few more attacks away from going down. But here's the Infernal Dragon that we were talking about. Still plenty of vision from Rogue Warriors on this side of the map, but it looks like BLG are ready to fight for it. Zhao Yun out of base with teleport, ready to join in at a moment's notice, but BLG instead are focusing on the minion wave to gain control over the river in a few moments.
Really smart play by BLG. Force Rogue Warriors outside of the river. At least they're going to give themselves the inner track and also avoid the ward at the Raptor ramp. That one would have killed the composition if they stepped into the river first rather than clearing out the wave.
BLG clear out some vision, but they end up falling back into their own jungle. Still not sure they feel completely safe stepping into the river, as the dragon is now started out by Rogue Warriors. The True Shot Barrage, but BLG decide just to give it over. They make the token showing that they want to fight for it, but instead just sacrifice that Infernal Dragon. Rogue Warriors got to be happy about that.
We've seen Jin Zhao steal dragons like that. Unfortunately, that time, Smite was very on point for Shuzu. The question now for Rogue Warriors, how do they find their fights after this? BLG have already slowed the game down. ADD is in a prime position to start pushing down against the Urgot. Even with that 1v1 where it seemed like the Urgot won, he's down by quite a bit of CS, and he can't really win the sustained trades against the Poppy anymore.
Starting to see why ADD prioritized that Poppy to look for the strong lane against Zhao Yun and keep him busy. As he did, I believe, just force the teleport out of Zhao Yun. No, that's the unsealed spellbook as it rotates back around, just getting Zhao Yun back in lane to keep him busy. But still, BLG have pretty effectively slowed down the game without sacrificing too much overall. They're still down those 2 dragons to the 1 turret to 1. But we're starting to get towards some item breakpoints. Jin Zhao, he's getting towards his Manamune conversion soon, has himself a lost chapter for even more after that. Looking towards item 2 for Kuro as well. So it looks like BLG are still pretty comfortable with where the game is at. Though Meteor might be looking for a bit of damage here. Not quite the snowball Kindred we want, but still able to scare Hua Tian away.
Rogue Warriors quickly losing out on their lane controls. There's not a lane where they can actually push towards tower and start dealing the damage. Very short range composition overall. They need to be brawling and fighting to really make use of this comp.
Instead, they're forced to sit back and farm, as by BLG's directive, as ADD joins up along with Meteor, 4 members, getting in for some chip damage. Kuro on the side.
Should have been spotted on his way in, though. Yes, we do see the pings go down.
That's the hook onto a minion as Arcane Shift sends Jin Zhao back to safety. So we are still seeing BLG try to convert. And look at that, the Muramana just ticked over. BLG planned that with Jin Zhao's item spike timing for an unexpected conversion, an unexpected twist. It didn't pay off, but they were looking.
Playing around their item breakpoints perfectly. And this is why I say the Herald onto the bot lane tower for me was very questionable. Imagine if it was on to their mid lane. They open the mid lane, they still have pressure in the matchup in the bot side, and suddenly they're in the enemy red jungle. That's a much easier play to set up if that was the case, but with their bot lane open, it doesn't really change anything. BLG actually just swapped their strong matchup from the top side towards bot, and it's almost like you don't have that tower anyway. And BLG are allowed to drag things on.
And that's working out for BLG. Only 1,600 gold behind Rogue Warriors now, despite being down 3 kills and that 1 dragon. We're still seeing some item pickups from Rogue Warriors. Hua Tian is up to 2 now with the Gargoyles and his Righteous Glory. Guinsu's finally completed from Zhuji along with that Blade of the Ruined King, so he hurts. Bilgewater Cutlass also now completed for Jin Zhao, so he's going to be able to get some more sustain and start getting some big chunk damage. Speak of the devil. And Zhuji, now he's got to be hoping that the the Blade of the Ruined King can be enough to heal him.
What is it with LPL Ezreals? They're always willing to just step
Jump
up and
forward,
chunk half of your HP.
Well, I think it's more of an LPL 80 carries thing. They go in. They don't hesitate. And the ones that do hesitate typically are outliers. Though, here comes the wave. 5 members of BLG stepping forward. Hammer up. Hook actually lands onto Jin Zhao, but Killua does not follow through as he's just chipping away at the turret.
It wasn't a clean hook. Jin Zhao did manage to get the Arcane Shift before, during the animation, so it wasn't a hook where Killua, in a position Killua wanted it to be. I will say Rogue Warriors, for them, they do have a win condition where they're very, very fast on the Baron.
Uh-oh. There's the Arcane Shift away from Jin Zhao. This hook lands. Remember, there's no Arcane Shift, but Mini, with a quick Devour, gets him out of there. Uh-oh, there goes the dive. Swooji trying to get in, but the quick save from Mini to body block the shield, gets himself up. Ragnarok in the front to rock and roll, but pulled out of safety and consumed. BLG finds himself a kill onto Killua, but meanwhile, they managed to find themselves another onto Mini. Now it's BLG chasing away Rogue Warriors, who might have gone too deep. The hook lands, but they find themselves giving over another kill. Shuju drops, and they chase it onto Hua Tian. He is burning down and drops to Kuro. As ADD scares away the remaining members, the carries for BLG are still up and are going to force Rogue Warriors back.
Rogue Warriors just lose their patience. They've been danced around for so long that they were eager for a catch. Going in between two towers to try and find that. And give props to Mini. It was a very well played to block out on the Scion ultimate, heading towards his AD carry in Jin Zhao. He stops the play in its tracks, and everyone collapses. Frankly, it was not a difficult play for BLG to really react to. The play itself was very dragged out. And Rogue Warriors just get punished. They should have waited for that big Baron push. They had the Guinsus and the Blade of the Ruin King ready, but instead they just wanted to get into action a little bit sooner. Great exhaust coming in from Mini, blocks out on the Scion. Nothing happens to Jin Zhao. He might fall down, but his entire team is there to back him up, and the kill's instantly traded back as both Korean imports land to the scene.
And then, again, we have to celebrate Killua on these hook champions. He has just been nailing people left and right. He's what started this whole play for Rogue Warriors. And while it was Zhong Wuji who did go a little bit too deep to start things off, he ends up escaping with his life. The trade-off for BLG, I think, speaks to some of their more experienced players. They have been behind this entire game, and they just wait for the one moment that the young squad for Rogue Warriors steps out of line and are punished. This is the exact same conditioning that BLG used in Game 1, just waiting for the right chance. Only this time we're seeing it from the defensive side, as now they're turning to find more kills as Hua Tian over the side gets stunned and locked down. Gargoyles is buying a lot of time, but look at the shred. He finally drops down. ADD so tanky on the far side, flashes away, saved by Mini. Shield goes up, Hua Tian going in, but Killua misses the hook. Meteor still firing and finds himself another as Jin Zhao goes in and gets another kill, and Rogue Warriors are falling apart. They have been dictating the entire game, but BLG wait for the one opening, and this is a hell of a sucker punch, Clement.
What an insane fight coming in from Jin Zhao. He controlled the choke so well. Rogue Warrior members, even though they had a Scion fighting in the front lines, they were afraid to follow up because Jin Zhao was there making sure whoever stepped up would take a big chunk of damage from his missed shots. He starts the fight out already with one kill, and look at that Scion. Hua Tian comes in, finds himself in a really bad position, and just watch how Jin Zhao fights it. He even finds the snipe onto Uji throughout all of this, staying outside of position with Zaru, and then just playing the choke keeper right here. Walks in front of the mini wave to deal damage. Oh, that was just beautiful to watch, and just the audacity and the knowledge of the damage coming out from Rogue Warriors was amazing.
Holding on to his flash for so long over the course of that fight. And we were talking about it over the course of the entire game. What are BLG waiting for? How can they try to get themselves back into this game? They were waiting for that single front-to-back team fight where they had their item power spikes, where they had their opportunities to pull Rogue Warriors apart. There was one mistake where Rogue Warriors went too far and told BLG that they could take the fight. Not a minute later, BLG found them out of position and punished them a second time to take the Baron. 3 minutes in, BLG pushing their advantage.
You really could have expected this result with how the laning phase was going for BLG. 2 early kills by Killua, not enough to hold the front.
Now they're setting up for another front-to-back Mini, still soaking so much. ADB gets in there as Zhong Wuji gets one, but Meteor is firing on one side. Shuju running for his life, but Jin Zhao still has Kuro in front of him tanking. Look at the damage that he's doing, even to Zhao Yun, even to Hua Tian. Shuju completing the recall will survive, as finally it might be just a bit too much for BLG to break through with raw numbers alone.
Rogue Warriors get one extra kill onto their plates, and they were quite lucky that they were fighting through such a large minion wave. Most of Jin Zhao's damage was expended on the incoming fans of Rogue Warriors, if you would say. But at the end, even though Rogue Warriors do get the kill lead, they don't actually break out of the base.
Managed to find themselves the kill onto Mini, but BLG, they just show they have no hesitation when it comes to taking an advantage. They find themselves a team fight a mid lane, convert it into Baron. They've got Baron, they convert it into a siege mid, where they try to trade. It's unsuccessful. Split push, send the Poppy bottom along with Jin Zhao, break down to tier 1. Now the map is even more open. It's 4 turrets to 2. Rogue Warriors have been dictating the game for the past 25 minutes. The past 3, BLG have done more damage than 25 minutes of Rogue Warriors over the course of this game.
Rogue Warriors were actually in the lead the majority of those 25 minutes you were talking about, but it doesn't matter. They didn't have the experience to actually close out on that advantage. BLG, on the other hand, they know what they want to do. They've been playing with this philosophy of just getting uneven numbers so well this series. Either they do it with the Nocturne Paranoia, where you can't follow the teleport, or they're doing it with ADD and the Poppy.
Oh, Mini gets behind the turret. Jin Zhao is safe, and now he gets to free fire. Meteor is still alive in the back as ADD is forced to run. Good knock-up, but the fight on 2 sides. That's a good Kindred kill. They managed to find another onto Zhang Wuji, though, so it is 1 for 1. One carry versus another, and Jin Zhao is going to start cleaning this fight up. Kuro and ADD split up to chase Killua, but Jin Zhao is still firing across. Zhao Yun goes down as Hua Tian has already fallen, leaving Shuju as the sole survivor for Rogue Warriors. True Shot Barrage is not enough to kill him, as he was able to heal on the fountain, but Jin Zhao at full health, at 3.5 items, is going to start breaking this game open. And Clement, this could be the series.
This is just such a dominating performance from BLG, doing everything picture perfect and doing it at a pace which is rarely seen in the LPL. Just clean decisions on every single play they move. I'm very impressed.
They break down one Nexus turret. They turn to the second. Shuju running to make it back on. Zhang Wuji is alive. Can he make the last stand with ADD soaking damage and Jin Zhao chasing down the kills in the back? It turns out the answer is no. Shuju drops. BLG pads the KDA before dropping the Nexus. 30 minutes in. It's a clean 2-0 from BLG.
ADD even flashes the playful trickster at Zhang Wuji, knowing that he just blocked his killer instinct with his own W. An absolute killer performance from BLG. I did not expect them to be this dominant, even coming from behind.
A smashing game, demonstrating the difference between our middle of the pack teams at 4-2 for BLG, now 5-2 with that victory, and our bottom tier teams of Rogue Warriors. This is the disparate level of ability that these two teams are bringing, is BLG now one step closer to locking in their playoff spot. They've still got to go through quite the gauntlet over the next few weeks, but things are going to be looking good if they continue this level of play.
We originally thought BLG actually had a downgrade in terms of the roster, losing Amazing J, losing their mid laner, and also losing Road, their main shot caller. BLG going through a very tough offseason to come out better for it, to really integrate their stars. New coach, new players, Kuro, ADD in the mix. Meteor also first one to step on, first season to step onto the roster, and they're making magic happen here.
Oh yeah, an absolute clinic. You've got to wonder if it was ever really in doubt in that game too. Rogue Warriors had control for so long, but they stepped out of position twice, and BLG completely opened up the game and closed out the entire series in just a few minutes after that, just waiting for the right opportunity to strike.
The hardest thing about League of Legends is not only playing your champion well, but playing as a team towards your win conditions. And this is something that I felt Rogue Warriors didn't really hold on to. They needed confrontation in small quarters. They were a fully short-range melee type of composition. They either need to battle it out in the objectives or take it to the enemy in their jungle. But BLG, with a very clever lane swap, taking ADD to the back of the lane, were able to essentially hold on to all 3 of their lanes. They had full wave control. They were never forced into the big 5v5 that Rogue Warriors wanted.
Yeah, and I think we do have to compare the experience of the players on these rosters. If you look at Rogue Warriors, they're bringing in 4 new players plus Killua, who only had a single year next to the most silent AD carry of all time and the loudest mid laner of all time next to him in Doinby. So you have to wonder how Killua is starting to lead this roster forward. Whereas BLG, they're bringing in the right mix of new talent and experience, and they are showing what that mixture can do, how it can mold these new players into a cohesive, solid unit.
The question for me is, how far can BLG punch above their weight.
Yeah.
That's the biggest question for me, because BLG, for me, they're doing all the right things, but when it comes down to laning phase, when it comes down to the team fights, can they actually outmuscle their way against the top teams? If the answer is yes, if their coordination wins the day, then this team could go anywhere.
It's so interesting, too, that you bring it up like that, because BLG historically, at least to me, has been the miracle maker team. This is the team that goes for the Hail Mary 45-minute late team fight to turn the whole thing around. They didn't really have a lot of plans outside of that, but this BLG that we saw today looked completely different. They were dominant. They were aggressive. They had no patience for any mistakes. They were constantly putting the pressure onto Rogue Warriors. Even when they were behind, nothing was free for Rogue Warriors. BLG were always in the area, keeping the threat up. This is a BLG that looks like they could swing for the top.
This is 2018 BLG, but much, much faster.
Yes,
they're basically
absolutely.
being put on something.
An accelerated path.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So they're playing to the pace that I've never really seen before, and I wonder how they gel together. That's the biggest question for me, because you're bringing in a new Korean coach, 2 new Korean players, and a jungler basically with no experience. And to perform at this level is truly astounding. I want to know, there has to be some secret to BLG's success. This looks too much like a well-oiled machine to be really a new roster.
Yeah. I do want to propose a little bit of caution, though, because in a much more sort of exaggerated scenario, we kind of saw this problem with RNG last year, where it was the year of RNG, the meta was in their favor, they were constantly winning, playing aggressive, going up so high, but then the moment things sort of shifted in the meta just a little bit out of the way, it seemed like they struggled and they had some difficulty dropping a few games here and there, dropping a set here and there. BLG, I worry if that's the same thing. Is it just their season, their meta, or can this team actually show us adaptation beyond that in the long run? And it's very early to say. Again, it's just a few weeks into this first split of the season, but again, we've got to wonder just where is this trajectory going?
Yeah, I have to say you are on the money in that point. I feel like this meta right now, it doesn't have a lot of there's not a lot of chances for the games to actually go long. They're decided very early on. So if you make one correct play out of the laning phase, then it has massive effects earlier on. That wasn't the same case in earlier metas. A lot of times, teams were still able to drag it out to 35, and you would have that big 5v5 team fight no matter what. And for BLG, we've seen the surgical precision that they can execute at when there are limited pieces, when the factors are kind of bare, when everyone only has 1 items, and the communication isn't as hectic. But we haven't really seen what happens when it stretches out later into the game, where the teams are trading you back blow for blow. They've done very well against V5. They've absolutely shocked the world against this was a very, very clean game from them as well. But I want to see them. Can they actually do it to the top of the ladder? That's the big question.
We've got EDG coming up, RNG, Invictus Gaming. How are they going to compete?
Trial by fire.
Exactly.
How is BLG actually going to do when they really go up against the Titans of the LPL?
Yeah, only time will tell for this lineup for BLG. Of course, their opponents, Rogue Warriors, they're still showing us that, hey, they're a young squad. They've got time to learn and grow. Same thing as Rogue Warriors in the past. Might not be playoffs this split, but they are still showing us that they've got that aggressive gene that was so characteristic of the team this past year in 2018. They are still retaining that forward-facing mentality, though it is with different faces.
We thought they were going to be the last team in the LPL, just putting that out.
Yeah,
like, Rogue Warriors got a big fat F in terms of their off-season moves, and they're ahead of 2 teams at the very least.
Comparatively, you think about the other 2 teams.
They've actually exceeded my expectations.
LGD, Vici.
Vici's still a higher.
OMG as well. You still give Vici higher than Rogue Warriors?
Oh, yeah, definitely, for sure.
Okay, all right. Well, good.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of things going right for Rogue Warriors. One of those is Killua on hook-based champions. This guy has, I don't know what practice tool he started using, but he has opened up the early game for Rogue Warriors in a huge way.
Oh, just the damage calculation on that play was so beautiful. Knowing that the extra Doran's ring was going to make the difference there was very special from this duo. And just look at another play. A picture-perfect hook across the minion wave to get the Ezreal, play in between, and he also gets his AD carry out from the range of being killed right there from the stun underneath the tower.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal play from Kilo. And again, this is the veteran of the team. He's got a year of pro play under his belt, and now he's trying to lead this team of newcomers to a victory in the playoffs and perhaps even beyond. So to see him find comfort in his own play and his own style first speaks to how he could grow as a leader.
Rogue Warriors, like you said, they have a lot of ways that can grow. I think shot calling is one way. Jungler position, they definitely need to have more experience on that.
Yeah.
And they're still figuring out their roster. That's the big thing. They haven't played a back-to-back series yet where they actually field the same roster.
Yeah.
Jiang Chao is still there. Xiao Yao is still there waiting on the wings. And you also have Kong Ming. So this is basically who is going to start. That's still even up in the question for Rogue Warriors. So for them to have this type of performance, I think it's a passable grade. And I also like what Coach Steak has been doing so far. Coach Steak is saying, you know what, I'm looking at this list, and these guys probably are not going to be able to trade one for one in terms of just laning phase strength.
They're not going to go head-to-head against RNG on day one.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to give them the strongest possible picks in lane. And just make sure they at least get a breather of fresh air when they get out of the laning phase. Like, the game's not going to be over when they get out of the laning. Sometimes it is.
A formative experience that can eventually caterpillar metamorphosis into a great, beautiful Rogue Warriors butterfly.
Yeah, I like the strategy. There's a lot of consistency in what they're doing. So there's a very clear strategy. They're going to rotate the players. You can play one set, you play the other set, but you're going to play the full set. We're going to give you that experience, and we're also always going to guarantee that you at least get some time out of laning phase. So super strong champions across the board. Hey, if we don't have a strategy at 25 minutes, it doesn't matter. We probably wouldn't have gone to 25 minutes if we don't go for this anyway. So.
Exactly. So it ends up working out for a little bit for Rogue Warriors. Of course, our MVP for that matchup on BLG is going to go over to Jin Zhao on that Ezreal. He did suffer during the laning phase, but aside from those 2 early kills, look at that KDA, 4, 2, and 7 overall.
The damage share also amazing, 36%. Kill participation 91. I think that's the number that should actually be up there.
Oh yeah.
He was so crucial in all of the picks he was making, and he was willing to step forward in this scenario where he was actually behind in his own personal gold. He was willing to push the lane up there and continue to poke onto the enemy team composition. You won't find a lot of AD carries that are willing to actually fill that role and play that aggressive in the mid lane just to hold down the wave.
I mean, we saw that a little bit earlier with Kramer, but we had to point out how that was so different from the norm of these styles of players. So still, we're seeing some excellent growth from Jin Zhao, from Kramer, from AD carries in general. And I love how the LPL never change with your highlight and your star AD carries. It just makes it for so much more fun when we actually get to watch and spectate. I mean, we even saw Zhong Wuji feeling himself in that mid-fight, going 2 turrets deep for the kill, and it was only a hero save from Mini that prevented that from going another direction.
I like the Blade of the Ruin King from the start as well. That was pretty interesting, and it allowed Killua to do a lot of roams on the map. But overall, I'm still ambivalent about the build. I would really like to dig into them as why that was picked. We haven't really seen that build ever in the LPL, so very interesting interviews, questions that maybe I can have answered for all of you guys later on.
Big hope for that, but of course, we now have our next matchup coming at you in just a few minutes. We've got Edward Gaming taking on JD Gaming. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. The LPL will be right back.